Hello class and welcome. I'm Libby Perry and this is your week 1 orientation. As promised, we will go into the 10 commandments of web design. These are things that you will probably break the first week, the second week. Week 4, you'll start losing points for these things. So make sure that you begin to implement them. Meaningful hyperlinks. Okay. When you send a link, title it in a short, meaningful way that lets us know where we're going. As you can see, the first one, that's good, project. Second one, click here for more. And then the third one, week 1 project. And then gobbledygook. Make sure you look at the names of your links. And you know how to do that. You go up here into insert link, gives you the option of the title and your URL, and then you make sure you open it to set in a new tab. What happens is that if I'm grading multiple websites and go deep into your site, 5, 6, 7 pages, and it was not open in a new link, now I do right click and open it in a tab, but I shouldn't have to. If I don't, and I forget to right click or something, and I just follow your link, now I'm 5 pages down and I've got to get back to FSO and I've got to back click like 5, 6, 7 times. So that's a lot of click. If I don't click that little box right there, it will replace where I am and take me to the new site or the new link.
So you want us to press that?
I want you to make sure that is always clicked. Thank you. Headings and lists. So we avoid dense block. Okay, something that's easy to read. That's how we write for the web. Okay, headings, bulleted lists. Not like this. We don't do that to you. Okay. So we don't want anyone to do that to their website users either, their site visitors. Instead, we use headings and bullets. Usually we avoid center aligned text. It's not as easy to read because it has a jagged left. It's not aligned left. So when the I is doing a return, it's not going back to the same place. It's going up a little different and just makes it a little less readable and a little more work for the viewer. Okay, so we typically left align, and this is really a graphic design layout concept.
Like that.
You see the difference? And try not to have one word by itself, a little orphan like that, okay? Or a sentence by itself in a paragraph. You know, it's supposed to be a paragraph, but it's one line. We try not to do that, especially if it's at the bottom of a page. Okay. Well, okay, sometimes you can center align. You can center align these headings. Okay. That's okay. We don't copy and paste content. It will bring in formatting from the previous that, like if we're taking a paragraph of text, it's going to bring in that format which won't match where we're going. Okay, so it might start out looking like this, but when we bring it in, it looks like this if we don't strip it of the formatting. So you can use a text editor for that. Anyway, you do have a text editor. You can do it in Word. Here it is, this text edit. Right here. We don't put text as an image either, like a screenshot. You will be giving content for your Real Deal Taco website that you'll be building. You'll be given content, and you'll be very tempted to screenshot that menu and put it in there. But you can't because it's just a picture. It's not really words, which means that nobody can search it. It's not searchable. Where do we see this where it's a problem? Resumes, okay, and other content. You want to make sure that someone can find those keywords, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, all those keywords on your resume page. Right? And if it's a picture of a beautiful resume you've designed, it's not going to help. It won't help, the engine won't find that. Consistent padding. This is definitely a graphic design layout issue that everybody needs to know. The one on the bottom is correct. It's got a lot more margin around it and just makes it readable. And one of the things you're learning about in graphic design is proximity. People read in quadrants. our eye will go in quadrants. And so you want to make sure that things have enough room in between, that it's nicely laid out. If that means you can't get everything on the page, oh well. Because even if you got everything on the page and it didn't have the dividers or the air that it needed, no one will be able to make sense of it. They will try and make them nervous and want to move on. This is another example of a graphic that requires that breathing space for it to actually have any kind of impact or work. So always leave enough padding around your text, columns, and your images. I will see this a lot on ads. There's a week where you create an ad, for example. And sometimes people will take the headers and the text right up to the edge or very close. They think it's cleared it because there's about 6 points between the edge and the letter, but that's not enough. 6 points is the same as 6 pixels. So that's something wonderful they did when they did the conversion. As a pixel stayed the same as a point. But you have to leave plenty. Color contrast, even those who don't have low vision appreciate high contrast. It's just easier to read, right? Easier to make sense of. So it maximizes the readability. I see this a lot when we have a video that somebody just can't part with, and then they put their headers on it or another image on it, and it gets very busy, and we can't read what we're there to read. So aesthetics has to go when it comes down to readability or aesthetics. As much as we love aesthetics, it's got to go. Okay? Use all those wonderful things someplace else. So can you read this? This is what happens when we forget to make a plan and we change our pages from one to the next, our background, for example. Okay? It changes how the font now reads. And do we really want to change the font color every time? No. So we need to think about that. Contrast. Image titles. This helps for search engine optimization because it will, one of the things that a search engine will search are the images. But if the image does not have a title or an alternative tag, it will not pick it up. And that's not fair to our low vision readers when we're giving that asset to others in order to support what they're reading so they can understand. Our low vision readers aren't getting that. And all we have to do, it's a very short title that you give. And in Wix, it's just a right click. Okay, so this is a little more. We don't have to say close up. We could just say tortilla chips, and that would be fine. Okay? So you will have image files. You'll want to name them. And also, when the mouse scrolls over it, you'll be able to see those names, and that's why we don't want a long number. Okay? But when you go in, dig deep into the Google Drive that you receive, because there's a second folder with newer images. Okay.
So there's when I'm building my website and I want people to find me, they're looking for the features with it. You want to go to my site because I already put a tag there on the picture. And that has nothing to do with the SEO and keywords thing, right? It's just
it's right, but it is one of the things that SEO scans. Okay. If the information is there, and that's why keywords are important there too. Yeah. Accessibility and SEO, that's why, right? Also with accessibility, one of the things we talk about are screen readers, and that's what those with a low vision are depending upon sometimes. And again, the screen reader will skip over it if it doesn't have alternative text with that image. Mind the fold. This is a term from the old newspaper days. And when I was now younger than both of you probably. I worked for the newspaper when I was in college, the Orlando Sentinel, back when it was actually a real form of, competitive communication. Yeah, it was just that and 3 television stations, and maybe some radio. But it was very important to be able to have the most capturing information above the fold, that which went into the vending machines or were folded up at the airport or in newsstands. The first A section top was the most important. That's where the prime real estate was, and that's really critical. We had a woman who we had editors for A section, B section, sports editors, different editors. And there was a young woman who laid out the front page, the A section. Right? She was sick. Twice I got to lay out the A section. That was a big deal because you cannot make a mistake on that front page. Right? It's a big deal. And it runs like a Swiss watch. It's like every few seconds you've got to get that page rolling. So it was fast and you had to do it right. So it's quite a privilege, even though today it's a dying newspaper, somewhat. But that's where Mind the Fold came from. And now we call it Minding the Scroll. So you want to make sure that all your important information is above the scroll line. So if you're telling them that you're going to the About page and you get there and the About page, they have to scroll down to get that information, not good. We want them to get that information and into that as fast as possible. So we don't have a big hero banner that takes up half the page.
The most important thing is actually the links that go straight to the pages in the first one.
The most important thing is going to be whatever you tell them they are landing on. If it's the About section, if it's the Contact page, if it is the Work page, whatever you are showing them, you want to get into that content immediately. So many times people want to put a lovely photo, but then they have to scroll to find the contact page or the contact information. And they're only there for the contact information. They want to get there fast as far as that page. When it's the About page, they want to get there fast. Images are important, but we have to keep it above the scroll, that important content. Full Sail did a good job of this. We have a lot of information on this single page above the scroll. Okay? We've got scholarships talked about. We've got chats they can go to, learn more. Of course, your navigation. We've got when classes ratios are. We've got areas of study, and we give them a peek as to what those are. So we know if we scroll down, we're going to see more areas of study. Okay. And we do have a great picture here that we hope entices them to click on some of these other things. So they've done a great job of doing that, plus a tour our campus. Okay. So they've done all that, right? And that's what we have to think about, keeping the most important call to action or information above the scroll. When you are making a website, let's say, of your graphic content or your video, let's say you put a video up to show your work, you're going to want to include some context that says what you did, what your role was for that video. Okay? Not just the title, but especially if you're a producer, because that's very hard to describe to other people what you do, but you can have the project there, and you could say, I'll produce this, or what have you. So your role is important. If it's a graphic piece, you're going to, maybe who the client was, a little bit of context for the content that you're providing, because people will not know. They will make assumptions. If you post it in your blog, you're going to do this, and you will be telling me, even on the platform, you'll give me a few lines that tells us exactly what this project was for, the rationale, why you were doing it. That helps you, organize your thoughts. Have either of you heard the legend of Dan Tilley? Okay, well, it's very short. What the whole point of the story is, Dan Tilley forgot that context mattered. So he had this wonderful video that he was playing the mandolin. Right? It's a beautiful video. And when it was over, the takeaway would be, man, Dan can really play the mandolin. But that's not what he was trying to promote. What he was trying to promote were his editing skills. Okay? But nobody knew that because he didn't say, I shot and edited this piece for, that's context. We can't make assumptions that people know what we do. And by that same token, we can tell people what we do. You have a dream, you have something you want to do, tell people that's what you want to do, and they'll say, okay. Any questions? All right, everybody. Thank you. Good night, and have a great evening.